potential good that can come from this technology is effectively infinite. But I would say that the harm is probably 10 times. It's a bigger infinity. And the question of how we are going to get to a place where we can leverage the obvious power that is here to do good and dodge the worst harms, I have no idea. I know we're not prepared. To see what's going to happen, you really want to start thinking of this as the evolution of a new species that will continue to evolve. It will partially be shaped by what we ask it to do, the direction we lead it, and it will partially be shaped by things we don't understand. So how does this computer that we have work? Well, one of the things that it does is we plug them into each other. Using language, it's almost as if you've plugged an Ethernet cable in between human minds, and that means that the cognitive potential exceeds the sum of the individual minds in question. Your AIs are going to do that, and that means that our ability to say what they are capable of does not come down to, well, we didn't train it on that data. As they begin to interact, that feedback is going to take them to capabilities we don't anticipate and may not even recognize once they become present.
There's this image that I saw of New York City in 1900, and every single vehicle on the street is a horse and cart. And then 13 years later, the same photo from the same vantage point, and every single vehicle on the street is a car. And in 13 years, all the horses had been removed and cars had been put in place. And if you had have interviewed the horses in 1900 and said, how do you feel about your level of confidence in the world? The horses would have said, well, we've been part of humanity for thousands of years. There's one horse for every 3 humans. Like, how bad could it be? You know, we'll always have a special place. We'll always be part of society. And little did the horses realize that that was not the case, that the horses were going to be put out of business very, very rapidly. And to reason through analogy, you know, there's a lot of us who are now sitting there going, hey, wait a second, does this make me a horse in 1900? I think a lot of people don't realize how massive these kind of technologies are going to have as an impact. 1 minute we're ordering water and that's cute, and the next minute it can run for days, and in your words, it doesn't stop until it achieves its goal.
We now have confirmation that our phones are actually listening to us at all times.
And in every case that I'm aware of, these companies have eventually turned over the recordings.
And this researcher has proven that our phones are even uploading data about us even when our phones are off.
Everything you do on an unsecured network is at risk. Your passwords, credit card info, and even sensitive work documents could be exposed to prying eyes. Now more than ever, is it important to protect your data online? Think about public Wi-Fi. You're at a cafe or in an airport or even at the gym, and you're connecting to free Wi-Fi without a second thought. That free Wi-Fi is often a hacker's playground. With just a few clicks, someone can intercept your connection, steal your information, and even track your browsing habits. That's where Private Internet Access, or PIA, comes in. With Private Internet Access, you can safeguard all your online activities with military-grade encryption, protecting you from hackers, governments, and even your internet provider. Plus, they have a strict no-logs policy, which means they don't track or store any of your browsing history, so your privacy stays private. One click, and you're protected. No complicated setup required. That's why we use Private Internet Access. Get 83% off and 4 months free using our link for a limited time. You can click the link in the description to try it out today.
I'm thinking a lot, Amjad, as Daniel's speaking about the vast application of AI agents and where are the bounds? Because if this thing is going to get incrementally smarter, incredibly quick, and we're seeing this AI race where all of these large language models are competing for intelligence with one another, and if it's able to traverse the internet and click things and order things and write things and create things, and all of our lives run off the internet today, what can't it do? It's going to be smarter than me, and it's going to be able to take actions across the internet, which is pretty much where most of my professional life operates. So what is it going to be able to do? And can you give me the variety of use cases that the average person might not have intuitively conceived?
So I tend to be an optimist, and part of the reason is because I try to understand the limits of the technology. What can it do is anything that any sort of set of human data that we can train it on. What can it not do is anything that humans don't know what to do because we don't have the training data. I fundamentally disagree with that. First of all, that humans would be happy with UBI. I think that core value of humans, and be curious about the evolutionary reasons, is we want to be useful.
It's really important to know that a lot of the jobs that are at risk are the most high status, highly paid jobs in the world. Let's take the highest paid job in America, which is an anesthesiologist. This is the
Highest paid salaried job.
Salaried job, yeah. And the majority of that job is observing a patient, knowing which type of medication would work best with their body, giving them the exact right amount, monitoring the impact of that on the body, and then making slight adjustments. The right technology, and any nurse will be able to do that job. And you might have one anesthesiologist on site supervising 10, 20, 30, 40 wards, and the technology is doing the job, but that one person is there just to kind of supervise if something went wrong or if there was an ethical dilemma.
What's wrong with that?
Oh no, there's nothing wrong with that except for the fact that a lot of people, hundreds of thousands of people, have spent their entire life training to be that. They get an enormous amount of purpose and satisfaction about the fact that that's their career, that's their job. They have mortgages, they have houses, they have status, and that's about to go away.
Well, if it's highest paid jobs, maybe you should start saving.
But you're talking about people who have done highly specialized work and are therefore not in a great position to pivot based on the invention of a technology that they didn't see coming because, frankly, in the abstract, maybe we all saw AI coming somewhere down the road, but we did not know that it was going to suddenly dawn. And we do have to figure out what to do with those people. It's not their fault that they've suddenly become obsolete, and inconceivable that people will accept this. It is fundamentally incompatible with our nature. We have to have things to strive for, and you can sustain life that way, but you cannot sustain a meaningful existence, and so it's a short-term plan at best.
So I was trying to make the point that OpenAI has been sort of wrong about how big of a potential for harm it is. Like, I think we would have heard about it in the news, like how much harm it's done. And maybe, some of it is working in the shadows, but like the few incidents that we've heard about where the cause of LLMs, large language models, the technology that's powering ChatGPT, has been huge headliners. Like New York Times talked about this kid that was perhaps goaded by some kind of chat software that helps teenagers to be less lonely into suicide, which is tragic. And obviously, these are the kind of safety and abuse issues that we want to worry about. But kind of these isolated incidents, and we do have open source large language models. Obviously, the thing that everyone talks about is DeepSeek. DeepSeek is coming from China. So what is DeepSeek's incentive? Perhaps the incentive is to destroy the AI industry in the US. When they released DeepSeek, the market tanked. The market for NVIDIA, the market for AI, and all of that. But there is an incentive to open source. Meta is open sourcing Llama. Llama is another AI similar to ChatGPT. The reason they're open sourcing Llama, and Zuckerberg just says that out loud, is basically they don't want to be beholden to OpenAI. They don't sell AI as a service. They use it to build products. And there's this concept in business called commoditize your complement. Because you need AI as a technology to run your service, the best strategy to do is to open source it. So these market forces are going to create conditions that I think beneficial. So I'll give you a few examples. One is, first of all, the AI companies are motivated to create AI that is safe so that they can sell it. Second, there are security companies investing in AIs that allows them to protect from the sort of malicious acting of AI. And so you have the free market, and we've always had that. But generally, as humanity, we've been able to leverage the same technology to protect against the abuse.
So I don't really understand this, and maybe this is the exact discussion that you would expect between somebody at the frontier of the highly complicated, staring at a complex system, and a biologist who comes from the land of the complex and is looking back at highly complicated systems. In game theory, we have something called a collective action problem. And in the market that you're describing, an individual company has no capacity to hold back the abuses of AI. The most you can do is not participate in them. You can't stop other people from programming LLMs in some dangerous way. I mean, unfortunately, even if there is some small group of elites that are able to go to Hawaii while something else does the mundane details of their business building, we are rather soon going to be faced with a world that has billions of people who do not have the skills to leverage AI. Some of them will be necessary for a time. You're going to need plumbers, but this is also not a long-term solution, because not only are there not enough of those jobs, but of course we have humanoid robots that, once imbued with AI capacity will also be able to crawl under your house into the crawl space and fix your plumbing. So what typically happens when you have a massive economic contraction that arises from the fact that a huge number of people are out of work is that the elites start looking at those people and thinking, well, we don't really need them anyway. And so the idea that this AI disruption doesn't lead us to some very human catastrophe, I think, is overly optimistic, and that we need to start preparing right now. What are the rights of a person who has had whatever it is that they've invested in completely erased from the list of needs? Is that person responsible for not having anticipated AI coming? And is it their problem that they are now starving and they're being eyed by others as a useless eater? I don't think so.
How is it different than when the looming machine came and the textile workers? How is it different than any time in history when technology automated a lot of people out of jobs?
I would say scale and speed. That's how it's different. The scale and speed is going to result in an unprecedented catastrophe because the rate at which people are going to be simultaneously sidelined, not just in one industry, but across every industry, is just simply
And it also
new.
did actually happen. For the first 50 years of industrialization, from like late 1700s to early 1800s, the Charles Dickens novels are essentially people coming from the farms who were displaced, arriving in cities, kids living on the streets. The British decided to pick everyone up and send them over to Australia. And it was this massive issue of displacement. I think we're going to go into a high velocity economy where rather than this long arc of career that lasts 45 years, we're going to have these very fast careers that last 10 months to 36 months. And you invent something, you take it to market, you put together a team of 5 to 10 people who work together, you then get disrupted.
There's an entrepreneur that used Replit in a similar way. His name is Billy Howell. You can find him on the internet. He would go to Upwork and he would find what people are asking for, different requests for certain apps, technologies. And he would take what they're asking for, put it into Replit, make it an application, call them, tell them, I already have your application. Would you pay $10,000 for it? And so that's sort of an arbitrage opportunity that's there right now.
That's not arbitrage, that's theft. You have somebody who has an idea that can be brought to market, and somebody else is cryptically detecting it and then selling back their own idea to them.
Well, they're paying them to do that. They're saying, I will give you $500 if someone makes this for me.
Right, but this is what I more or less think is going to happen across the whole economy, is that, yes, from this perspective, we can see that everybody is suddenly empowered to build a great business. Well, what do we think about the folks who are going to be displaced from the top? What are they going to think about all these people building all of these highly competitive businesses? And are they going to find a way to do, what venture capital has done or what record producers have done? What they're going to do is they're going to take their superior position at the top, and they are going to take most of the wealth that is produced by all of these people who have these ideas that in a proper market would actually create businesses for them, and they're going to parasitize them.
I think that introduction of AI and AI agents, old value has moved. And now it's not going to be the case that the idea itself is the moat. And it's not going to be the case that resources are the moat. So in such a scenario, you still have to figure out distribution. You still have to have, for example, like an audience. So if you're a podcaster now, you have 1 million followers on Twitter, you're in a prime position because you now have something that the great guy with a great idea with no audience has. You have inbuilt distribution. So I now think actually much of the game might be moving to still about taste and idea, but also the moat is distribution.
I think it's sad that it is inevitable, but at this point it is.
What part of it do you find sad?
We have squandered a long period of productivity and peace in which we could have prepared for this moment. And our narrow focus on competition has created a fragile world that I'm afraid is not going to survive the disruption that's coming. And it didn't have to be that way. This was foreseeable. Frankly, the movie 2001, which came out the year before I was born, anticipates some of these problems and treated it too much like education, like entertainment, and not enough like education. So we are now, we've had the AI era opened without a discussion about its implications for humanity. There is now, for game theoretic reasons, no way to slow that pace because, as you point out, if we restrain ourselves, we simply put the AI in the hands of our competitors. That's not a solution, so I don't advocate it. But there's a lot more preparation we could have done. We could have recognized that there were a lot of people in jobs that were about to be obliterated, and we could have thought deeply deeply about what the moral implications were and what the solutions at our disposal might have been. And having not prepared, it's going to be a lot more carnage than it needed to be.
The first thing I would do is teach people about these systems, whether it's programs on the TV or outreach or what have you, just trying to get people to understand how ChatGPT works, how these algorithms work. And as the new jobs arrive, I think there's going to be an opportunity for people to be able to detect that this job requires this set of skills and I have this kind of experience, and although my experience are potentially outdated, I can repurpose that experience to do that job.